Hey guys, welcome back to another clip of Schach-manuel-lernen. Today we are checking some checkmate patterns. So we are on lead chess, and here, as you see, we finished already some of our checkmate patterns. And yeah, you have by every checkmate pattern 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. That means first it's like always the easiest one, and then a bit more complicated, and the third one the most complicated. So here we have Murphy's checkmate, and here, as you can read, Murphy's mate is named after Paul Morphy. It works by using the bishop to attack the enemy king while your rook and an enemy pawn helps to contain it. So what does it mean? When we check the opponent king, at the moment he has no square to escape, and so we're checking for checks. If we give this check, he simply captures, so it will be the other check with bishop, and the rook holds the king in the corner. Okay, so that was like number one. Then number two is a bit more abstract, but it's kind of the same idea. Like we have the king here, a pawn is gone, so we will make advantage of that, which means when we give a check, his only option is to go to the corner, and then we have again this checkmate where the rook holds the king in the corner. And this here is more complicated because the one before had less pieces, and as well it was just in one move. So we give a check, and here a checkmate. Same pattern like before, just with more moves. Then the last one. Here we see now the king is protected. So in order to give him a checkmate, we checking for checks. So the only one is that one. The rook is protected by the bishop, so the king has to go there. And then we need to find a move afterwards. So let's capture, he has to go there. Now, if we would go with the rook back and give a discovery check, he can push his pawn between the bishop and his king, and then everything will be fine for him. That's why we need to make sure that he can't push the pawn, which means we will capture here. There's a check afterwards. If he plays something like queen, we can just simply capture the queen. So we capture there, capture the queen, now he goes back. And now we can use the same pattern like going there. He needs to go to corner, we go back, and once more we have the same pattern. Now a bit with more moves, but as you can see, the principle is the same. Then the next checkmate, Pillsbury. Pillsbury's mate is named after Harry Nelson Pillsbury, and it is a variation of Morphy's mate. The rook delivers checkmate while the bishop prevents the king from fleeing to the corner square. So now, by this one, it's the rook which will deliver a checkmate and not the bishop. So, which means when we check again the opponent's king, he has no square to escape. So when we give a check here, it's checkmate. That was the easiest one. Variation number two. Here we see that the pawn is quite attacked, like 3 times. Just 2 times defended, and because we know it's a checkmate pattern, we check for checks. So the only check is this one. Then capturing with the rook, and now same principle again. Like if we would go back with the rook, either he can push the pawn, or, what you shouldn't forget, he can capture your bishop. That's why we need to find something else. And here, it's a bit more tricky. You can also check it by yourself. The checkmate should be by the rook at the end. So here we need to place the rook there. It's a double check. So he has to make a king move. And if he captures, then we have here a checkmate. Because the bishop is preventing the king from going to corner, and the rook delivers the finally checkmate. And then last pattern for today, Damiano's mate. Damiano's mate is a classical method of checkmating and one of the oldest. It works by confining the king with a pawn or bishop and using a queen to initiate the final blow. Damiano's mate is often arrived at by first sacrificing a rook on the h-file, then checking the king with the queen on the h-file, and then moving it for mate. The checkmate was first published by Pedro Damiano in 1512. So we always have a hero in this checkmate, which is the pawn, and the pawn, in this case, prevents the king from escaping, but at the same time he will support the queen in order to deliver a checkmate. Number 2. Here, yeah, it's like not with a pawn this time, but the principle is kind of the same. The bishop holds the king from going here and here. Actually, I don't know why they didn't put the pawn here, because it would be exactly the same. However, the bishop prevents here and here. So in order to find a checkmate, we always check for checks. And the bishop we need, because otherwise the king can simply capture. So we can give a check with the rook. His only option is to capture the rook, and afterwards we have the queen here, which delivers a checkmate. And then the last one, like here, we see now again this pawn of Damiano, and this one here is, yeah, really one of the classic ones. It holds the king again from escaping, and now, yeah, we need to check for checks. This check doesn't help too much, because we're just exchanging a bishop and activate his queen. So our end goal is to have the queen there again. Now, how do we do that? The other check that we have is a rook there. And by the sequences, you always need to check for forcing moves. Like here, he is forced to capture. Then we can give another check. He is forced to go back. Then we give another check. He is forced to capture. And then we will bring the queen to h8 and h2. So here it's really like you need to sacrifice both rooks in order to deliver a checkmate. So rook here, king needs to capture. Then the next rook, king goes back. Now we sacrifice even one more rook. Queen h8 check. And now he can just sacrifice material, of course. Then we capture here. And yeah, now it's already checkmate because the bishop attacks now that. But the main star was this cute little pawn here, the pawn of Damiano, which, yeah, holded everything together. So yeah, I hope you learned a bit something by these checkmate patterns. So always try to attack the king and seeing where you have checks and yeah, how you can finish the game. Take care Wish you a wonderful Saturday, good games, and see you soon.